At night, the Kenyan coast looks more like paradise than a danger zone, but Africa is a threatened continent. The AIDS epidemic is already much worse here than in Britain or America. And in Africa, AIDS is not spread by homosexuals or drug users. It's spread mostly by heterosexual sex, and especially by prostitutes. In Mombasa, the business ladies negotiate deals on the street. The going rate is £10 or less, a deal that could kill you. At least 1 in 3 is infected with the AIDS virus.
Don't take me feeling my...
The Sunshine Club is packed as usual, but one set of customers are missing. British soldiers banned from the Kenyan coast by the army for fear of AIDS. But if they're banned from here, they should be banned from all such haunts in Central Africa, where the situation is worse. So far in Kenya, this is an invisible threat. There's no obvious sign of the disease, and the prostitutes simply don't believe the findings.
I don't believe if there is something called AIDS, because I've not seen anybody in Kenya with AIDS, so I don't know.
You've seen no
examples of it? No. And I don't believe that it's in Kenya.
But the doctors think differently. AIDS has not yet hit Kenya as badly as other parts of Africa, and officially less than 40 people have died. But a survey in the capital, Nairobi, showed that 1% of all blood donors carry the virus, 10 times the amount in Britain. And for prostitutes, the figure's far worse. 31% of richer prostitutes and as many as 2/3 of poorer prostitutes in Nairobi are infected. Peter Piot is one of those who carried out that study. He's director of the World Health Organization's AIDS Reference Center, specializing in Africa.
If we take figures from other African cities, such as Kinshasa and from Kigali, they're up to 88% of prostitutes are infected with the virus.
Kigali, that's in Rwanda.
Kigali, Rwanda, yes, exactly. And what's very clear now is that prostitutes are playing a major role in the spread of AIDS in Africa. And there, of course, they have high infection rates because they're having an enormous number of sex partners.
In Britain and the States, AIDS started off, it seemed, more among homosexuals and among drug users. Why should the situation in Africa be different then, and AIDS be spread mostly by prostitutes, by heterosexual sex?
The common link between Europe, North America and Africa is sexual promiscuity, be it homosexual or heterosexual promiscuity. And what we're seeing now in Europe is a rising incidence of AIDS in the heterosexual population as well. And when we take transmission of AIDS in Africa, it's for over 90% going by heterosexual sex.
And the result is a massive threat to the whole of Central Africa. The situation in Kenya may be serious, but it's nothing compared to the threat in neighbouring countries. In Uganda, northwest Tanzania, and elsewhere in the region, in Rwanda, Burundi, Zaire and Zambia. In Uganda, as many as 10% of adults carry the AIDS virus. In Zaire, it's 7%, at least in the capital Kinshasa, while in Zambia, there were grim results from a study last year. It was found that 18%, nearly 1 in 5, of blood donors and hospital staff in the capital Lusaka carry the virus, as did nearly 1/3 of men aged 30.
When we're talking about AIDS, we're talking about a disease which is almost always fatal. And when we're looking at the people who are getting it, it's particularly in the age group between 25 and 45 years. And these are exactly the people a country has invested into, the people who are productive and who have to take care of the development, the economic and social development of a continent like Africa.
This is what those extraordinary statistics mean in practice. Every 20 minutes, the Likoni ferry carries just over 1,000 people from Mombasa across to the coast road south. If the Nairobi survey is representative of the whole country, then 10 people on this ferry have the AIDS virus, and most of them will probably die from it. But if this were a Ugandan ferry, 100 people here would have AIDS. And if it carried young Zambians, the figure could be as much as 300 in this group. If these projections are accurate, then the prospects for much of Africa are quite terrifying. Already there are fears that the AIDS threat could damage the Kenyan economy by frightening off another group on the Likoni ferry, the tourists. Nearly 500,000 tourists a year visit Kenya. They're the country's third largest source of foreign exchange. few nervous holidaymakers have already cancelled plans to come here, but they're quite wrong to have done so if this is what they were after. Tourists lounging by the pool on the edge of the Indian Ocean or haggling with the local traders are in absolutely no danger from AIDS. But other tourists come just for the girls and for sex holidays. They are now in extreme danger, as their partners will be when they get home. But for the business ladies, it's business as usual, and the local MP is determined that there should be no scare.
As you know very well, our minister has made it very clear. We don't have such trouble of AIDS in Kenya compared to the other countries.
Do you dispute these figures then?
Of course. Because I had it from my minister only yesterday, from our Voice of Kenya, and it was a newspaper. What more should I say?
There's a danger in Africa that AIDS has become not just a health problem, but a sensitive diplomatic issue, and that could hinder the action that's so desperately needed. The British Army ban on troops visiting Mombasa may not have affected the bar girls, but it has affected the Kenyan government. They see this as a smear campaign, as insulting as the original suggestion that AIDS came from Africa. So although the Kenyan government is probably doing more than most on the continent to fight AIDS, it's become highly defensive about what's going on. They won't give interviews and they won't discuss their programmes. The ministry have merely issued a statement. It rightly reassures tourists that they're in no danger, but it does say there is no scientific basis for the hysterical and alarmist media presentation that Mombasa and Malindi constitute a source of AIDS. And that leaves very serious questions unanswered, both about prostitutes and the number of blood donors who are AIDS carriers. One way of catching AIDS, other than through sex, is through blood transfusions. In Britain, all blood is now screened and safe, but that's not the case in Africa. The fact that 1% of all Kenyan blood donors carry AIDS was discovered here at the Nairobi Hospital, a private hospital where all blood is screened and safe. But across the road at the public hospital, the Kenyatta Hospital, it's a different story. A screening program is said to be just starting, but medical resources here are badly stretched. Without outside help, Kenya can't afford to screen all blood, and this is one of the richer countries in the region.
That's one of the major problems. It's a problem of resources. When you take some of the poorest African countries, and they are among the most severely hit by AIDS, the health budget per year per capita is about $1 to $2. This means that when you want to screen blood donors with a test that costs about £1, that these countries can't afford that without foreign aid.
But the main priority is stopping the spread of AIDS through prostitutes. Nairobi, the richest city in East Africa, attracts girls not just from all over Kenya, but from outside the country, from Somalia, from Uganda, and from Tanzania. Many are from areas where the AIDS epidemic is far worse than in Kenya, and many are here illegally. Many of their clients are white businessmen who will carry AIDS out of Africa. The government has got to educate the prostitutes about AIDS, and there's already one Nairobi project by which the girls get free condoms. But the message has not yet got through.
Are you aware of any government campaign at all to warn girls like yourselves of the danger of AIDS?
No. Nobody bothers about it because in Kenya, most of the people believe that we don't have it. Yeah, we don't have it. That's what I can say.
Jerry, what about you? Have you seen at all any sign of a government campaign? Have you heard of any official warnings to girls?
Yes, through the newspapers. But then the problem is how many people back home in the rural areas can afford that newspaper? Very few. And the newspaper tells us to use condoms. If you think about the rural areas, those kind of people back home can't afford a condom. They would rather, they got so much to do with that 5 bob. Maybe it costs about 5 bob, 10 shillings. They don't have that kind of money to waste.
If you felt that it was going to be a danger to your life, would you change your lifestyle? Could you change your lifestyle?
How could I? How could I? I don't, unless I get married. But I can't change it. My kids have got to go to school because I wouldn't want them to go through the same life, to lead the same life I'm leading. And they got to go to school come what may. So I go to school, guys, for money.
If someone were to tell you that the statistics are that if you keep going on like this, you could get AIDS and it could kill you, what would you say?
That's bad luck. It's bad luck. But I can't stop it. And I believe that there is no AIDS. I believe there is no AIDS.
This week, the Red Cross started handing out warning leaflets at Nairobi bus stops, though it was still being stressed that this shouldn't be seen as confirmation that AIDS is widespread on the coast. But Africa could be devastated by AIDS. The situation is made all the worse because Africa simply can't afford mass education, free condoms and blood screening campaigns. And because many of the likely victims so far refuse to even believe that the disease exists. What then of the battle against AIDS in a country where money is no problem and the threat fully recognised?